This video I think is something that you guys might either really enjoy, or cringe at quite greatly, but regardless of that, today is my 2 years with hyunsuk, and a lot has happened with him and I already wrote him a letter of great length. But I thought making a video might be fun, since videos are something I obviously like to spend my time doing, and today is a day more important to me than any other holiday, or any other occasion. Hyunsuk is more than an idol to me. He's someone I'm really indebted to for the great amount of things he's done for me, so I just thought that I'd do some kind of video going over the past 2 years. I don't know how long this will be because I'm not going to restrict myself in any sense, but before I start I just want to apologize for the level of cringe, but I just want to express love for someone so important to me. So the beginning of this story begins a little bit before where you think it actually would. I mentioned this briefly in that tutorial video on how I edit, but I got into YGTB through NCT because I was binging NCT Life before finding YGTB initially. I was just mindlessly binging NCT Life to pass the time because honestly I was not in the best headspace and because I want this channel to be positive. I don't wish to go into detail here, but it felt very bleak for me, and just hopeless about a lot of things, but again, I won't get into it, just not a lot could make me that happy. And so eventually I had finished watching it and I couldn't stand to be left with the silence and my own thoughts, so I decided for that moment it would be best to find something else to watch. And for a while, wherever I went I saw episode 1 of YGTB popping up into my recommendations, and I never thought to watch it because I was in the midst of something else. But at the same time something had been drawing me to it, so I thought I should watch it since I have the time. Something in my mind had been drawing me to it, so I thought I'd binge episodes of it. Though unbeknownst to me I hadn't realized there was no more than 3 episodes. But regardless, once I had started it, firstly I don't know, but there was just something that felt fresh about it. Like I suppose the factor that had intrigued me to go forth and watch it was also bringing that fresh air about it. And you know how in the beginning of the first episode it was just going through the YG building and wasn't showing anyone, but you could hear their voices. I swear genuinely that Hyunsuk's voice was the one that caught my attention. I promise I'm not just saying that, but it just sent some kind of feeling through my soul and I was excited to go through the rest of the episode. And I feel like honestly that time stopped the first time I saw Hyunsuk. And to be honest, I was eating a snack the first time I saw him and just seeing how cool he looked, I seriously choked. I'm not even kidding, I started choking. But just looking at Hyunsuk you can see how cool he is, and my mind, it was running rampant with so many thoughts, but suddenly it was all occupied with Hyunsuk and I couldn't take my eyes off of him. Even though he hadn't performed yet I could just tell that he was going to be amazing. And I eagerly sat through the episode to watch Hyunsuk, and every time I saw him I felt this happiness bubbling up inside me, even though I knew nothing of him really at that time. And the first time I saw him rapping, Go Yard was the title, right? It was the monthly evaluations. But anyway man, I just knew at that point I was going to be wrapped around his finger, just in those short moments already. From being drawn in with his charisma like he has his own gravitational pull, then to seeing him perform in such a unique way, like just the way he did it was so special to me. And then of course the more I watched through the show over time, I learned about how sweet his personality is. But honestly even in the first few episodes you could see, because I remember him hyping up the babies. Treasure C, right? But as I said earlier, I thought there was more episodes to binge, so I got through the first 2 before I got tired. And I really wanted to see the third for Hyunsuk, but I was tired and had to go to bed. He was all I could think of, just laying in bed trying to fall asleep. All I could think about was the amazingly talented blonde boy who seemingly captured my heart. And for the first time in a long time I could go to bed without being haunted of depressing or bothersome thoughts, and I just genuinely felt pure happiness, with no worries and no heavy heart to go along with it. And because of these feelings this boy was already giving me, it didn't take me long to already watch episode 3 as soon as I was able to, eagerly sitting through it and smiling big at the parts with Hyunsuk. But I was so frustrated realizing there was no episodes after that. Then I was left to make a choice, either keep watching or not. Because before YGTB the idea of a survival show like that would have made me timid, but I made the decision like it was second nature. Of course I'd want to keep seeing Hyunsuk. He was already doing wonders for my heart in the span of 24 hours and I wasn't about to let him go that easily. So this was the start of me eagerly awaiting every Friday an episode dropped. I even had a ritual to make it extra enjoyable to have an energy drink I liked, even if I was watching at like 8 p.m. lol, and specifically like 2 strips of Airheads candy. Hear me out, I know that sounds weird and especially together, but I used to like to have drinks and snacks specifically while I watched things I enjoyed. But honestly I would have been fine without it just because having hyunsuk there was sweet enough. But even if this show felt torturous at times, garnering it the title of YG Torture Box by some of my friends, I still couldn't help but smile because if hyunsuk was there I truly was feeling moments of happiness. The more I saw him work so hard, and despite being in such an environment, it never got to his warm heart, and I think that's one of the big reasons why I fell so much for him. The more I saw him, the more sadness left my heart, and so even though I had spent a short period of time with him at that point, he was already very important to me, and I just wanted to give my all in supporting him. You guys get the gist. I just went through the motions along with him as the show progressed, and as the show progressed, as did my love for him. I grew so attached I just knew that wherever he went I'd support him. He added so much positivity to my life, and it hadn't taken me long to have the desire to repay the favor. One of the things I started that I still do to this day, I started writing letters. I know very well they are something that won't ever be read by him, but I hope that writing nice things about him will put good into the universe for him. You know, I started on the 1st of January. I wanted to start my 2019 by giving love to the boy who already captured my heart. Honestly, the episodes became very stressful, especially as the show neared its end, but in the same breath I had faith in hyunsuk the entire time. The only thing that ever worried me was YG and his decision making. We all know how that man can be. And I'll skip a little bit ahead so this video isn't 10 years long, but I remember being so mad on the finale episode when all of the members weren't announced at once. For the final lineup, I just wanted to know. And I was worried for hyunsuk because I figured he was undoubtedly stressed as well. And as the days passed and every other member was announced, of course I was happy for them. As time passed I grew a lot of love for each trainee. But of course, none in the same sense as hyunsuk, who had gradually healed my heart each time I saw him. So naturally I couldn't help but feel a little sad, though I tried to stay positive since that is something hyunsuk would do. Though honestly the night he got announced as the 7th member, that was a really special night for me. I went out for a night jog because the weather had a cool crispness to the air. January weather is just always fresh and I enjoy cold the most anyway. I wanted to make the most of it to pass the time. But before I even started running, I noticed something on the ground. Very subtle, but it caught my eye. A small plastic heart that had a little shine to it, and to others it may seem like junk, but considering the night it was, I thought it could have been good luck of sorts. So I kept it. And I went along with my run like normal, but when I stopped on a curb for a little break, I just enjoyed the cold air on my skin and looking up at the night sky, noticing the stars shining just a little brighter than they normally do. And since they were sparkling so much, honest to God it reminds me of hyunsuk. Still to this day, those stars shine the same way in how his eyes sparkle. But after I was done admiring it, I had noticed the time was very close to when the final member was to be announced. And to briefly say it, I panickedly ran home. I was like KJGHS him going to Miss ITAA. So I went as fast as I could, but you know him short and little legs can't take me that fast. But the amazing thing is, believe me or not, but I swear on my life, I made it home exactly at 9:59 p.m., 1 minute before the member was announced. And it was only a matter of seconds before the post came out and I saw it was hyunsuk. My legs gave out and I was just on the floor crying, because even though I hadn't known him long at that point, I could tell by how I saw him on the show and what I had heard from him on Mixnin, just everything I knew about him. I was so happy that he was realizing a part of his dream, that he did it, and I just felt really glad for him. If anyone deserved that, it's him. Also BTW, since I mentioned it, I binged Mixnin right after YGTB like around February just because I wanted to see him, but not being there for him as the show was on kind of still haunts me with guilt. But I guess there's nothing I can do about it. Honestly, it might seem silly to some people to rely on an idol so much, but with the way he helped me through the worst times of my life, some that I thought I couldn't ever recover from, He healed my heart at such a fast pace, and also by watching him, I wanted to work hard and spread positivity like he does. I've made a lot of friends just by trying to mimic his actions. Everything good in my life is because of hyunsuk, and I know everything in the future will be the same. Because he built the foundation of my now built up and stronger heart that will help carry me. Yet at the same time, I can't ever imagine myself without him. Whenever something goes wrong, when I'm sad or depressed, angry or in whatever mood, just the thought of him can make me smile and ease my worries. And I've just always had this desire from the beginning to do my best for him and return some of the favor that he's done for me. Even though I'm sure I won't ever be able to. After he got announced as the 7th member and as time passed around then, I just supported him without getting impatient. Even though as 2019 progressed with no signs of debut, I tried to be patient because my thought process was, hyunsuk is the one who had to wait the longest. It wasn't just YGTB and Mixnin he went through, but just day-to-day life as a trainee, working so endlessly hard for a dream that he had no guarantee of achieving. And before that, he worked hard to specifically get into his dream company of YG. A lot of time and effort went into that, more than we can even imagine. So I thought the least I could do is wait patiently. Even as I saw others grow impatient and leave the fandom, I just waited. And it isn't even like hyunsuk and Treasure became less of a pressing thought on my mind. Even though they weren't active, they were the group on my mind first. And some of my friends were always surprised I stayed so loyal despite little amounts of content. 2019 might have been dry, but I still had hyunsuk. All of the old content was my best friend. Nights I felt sad again or just plain couldn't sleep. There was old fancams from Mixnin or YGTB, the diary cams, any of it. Just hearing his voice reminded me things would be okay in the end. If I just focused on his voice I could get through anything bothering me. And the same effect was there for the same old pictures even if I'd looked through them hundreds of times over and over again. And I know not much of this makes sense, but I don't think anything that goes through my head ever does. All I know is just that no matter what happens and for every single day I've spent being a fan of his, I've gradually felt happier, and this process makes me love him more and more with each day. You know, someone like me doesn't deserve any of the things he's done for me, but I'm still always so grateful for every moment, and I just want to try and repay some of the things he's done. That's why I've always worked so hard with YouTube, or my letters. Those letters are a big thing that I do for him, and I mentioned I started at the very beginning of 2019, right? Because I wanted to start the year with doing something positive for him. Some of you might think I struggled with writing even though there was literally absolutely nothing to write about, except for like armpit quality phone pictures of them wandering around in Hongdae holding a giant ice cream. And yeah, I'm not making this up, that's a real picture. Dinosaur tombs, y'all know. There was new pics of them roaming all the time. And I make jokes, but honestly truly, I was grateful for every single one of them. Even the little things like that to this day still make me think about how grateful I am to get the content that we do now. Honestly, now that I think of it, the lack of content could have such a big reason as to why I associate hyunsuk so much with Persona 5 and the series itself. I think even though we get lots of content now, my brain still connects him to things that might not even make sense to other people, but to me its reasoning is totally absolute. Everywhere I look I can see something that makes me think of hyunsuk, and it's not even forced. That's just genuinely how my mind goes. But with Persona it's just another level. I think about the characters he might like, what parts of the game he might like in the storyline, if he would get inspired from things like the soundtrack or not, or if he'd even like the game at all. I play that game all the time to this day, but a lot back then, so I guess just the desire to see him mixed with something I was doing a lot made me connect them. I was rereading my 80-day milestone letter with him the other day. It was so badly written for one. But the funny thing is even then and so early I was talking about a Persona game. Anyway, this is random I guess, but to me it's one of those things that make perfect sense. He's just really the best medicine for my heart when I need inspiration or anything else. I don't know if anyone from my old channel caught this in that Q&A I did, but I mentioned that my dream career is to be a pro wrestler, and even though I still haven't achieved it yet, I'm trying to keep pushing just like hyunsuk did, and like how he specifically wanted to be a trainee and debut in YG. I want to wrestle for this promotion called Stardom. One of my favorite wrestlers used to wrestle there. Her name was Hana Kimura, and to be honest, she passed away this year, and this username on my YouTube itself was a tribute, because her group was called Tokyo Cyber Squad, but I'll get more into that later. About Hana, I just wanted to mention this because it's always intrigued me how Hyunsuk and I's career paths differ so greatly. An idol and a professional wrestler. Yet I still look to him first for inspiration, even over other people in the field I want to excel in. It might seem weird, but anytime I need an answer for anything, hyunsuk is the one who always helps the most. I think just after watching so attentively from the survival shows he's been on, to even now watching him as leader, I think there's endless things I could learn from him. From his personality to skill, he's just so amazing, and for the past 2 years, having a role model like this who's literally helped me from the beginning. I know I don't deserve any of it, but I'm endlessly grateful. He's like a real-life guardian angel. I really honestly feel grossly selfish, but I think since I spend so much time on YouTube, it would make sense to do a video at least once talking about why hyunsuk means so much to me, and so you guys can understand my feelings a little better. But I'm sure even though I spent hours and hours into this video that some things still might not be included. But even if I don't go to explaining some things in depth, he means everything to me and I love everything about him. I'm obsessed with his talents because to me he can take something that a lot of people do, like dancing, rapping and so forth. Yet he does so with the absolute most skill, and his charisma casts a spell over it that makes it unique, and the only person can pull those things off is him. But if I had to pick one thing that I love the most, it's probably his warm personality. How well he treats every single person around him. If it's either his members or treasure makers, it just always warms my heart knowing someone that sweet is out there in the world. We've all seen from him how well he takes care of the other members and how he was with his fellow trainees on the shows he was on. But guys, have you ever seen an idol who treats fans as well as him? I mean, every time he tweets he seems to be mentioning treasure makers. That's how he starts his tweets. It's always like hi Toom, and so forth. He just seems excited to interact, and every time there's a video call with treasure makers, his face lights up and those sparkles in his eyes shine extra bright. He always listens attentively to what they're saying to him, and always gives his whole heart into the responses. Like I can't think of anyone else like that. The warmth he radiates is just unique, and whenever anything bad happens, that warmth always soothed any sad aches within it. I couldn't have made it this far without him. Just watching him always puts a smile on my face, and even if it's selfish on how much I bring up, he makes me happy. My first priority is always that he's doing well, so when I see that he is, there's nothing that makes me feel more thrilled than that. Someone that sweet always deserves to be happy, so even if things are going horribly wrong for me, I'm okay in the end as long as he's happy. If I'm struggling with work, trying desperately for a career path like wrestling that may seem far-fetched, losing my YouTube, or even worse, losing Hana, I can find comfort in his happiness. He's been through so much. I just want him to be happy above all else. I'm so happy to see him accomplish so much. It genuinely seems like Treasure are doing so well, and I know that makes hyunsuk so happy. You can see it on his face every countdown live they have, or his energy while they're performing. It's all just so special, you know. I think there's a major difference in my 1 year with him and now my 2 years. I think for our 1 year I was just amazed that he pulled me out of my mental abyss and made me into such a happy and social person, when before I had practically no friends and no one I could trust. That was partially why I felt so sad, but like I said, this is a positive space so I won't talk about it, but you know, all of that. And like always, I was so proud of him just for everything he's done, and that's something that won't ever change. No matter what happens, I'm always so proud of hyunsuk, for his talents and for being such a kind soul in a world that can sometimes feel so bleak and dark. I just was really like, OMG, wow, for my 1 year with him. And it was a big milestone since it was our first full year. But honestly, this one might even be more eventful. A lot has happened since then. Like all of the content that started coming up in January, and I felt like through those things, Treasure Map, Treasure TMI, T-Talk, every single bit of it, I could grow closer to him and enjoy his charms that much more. And then of course finally debuting and their 2 comebacks. But also stuff in my personal life he helped me a lot with. I brought up Hannah because honestly when she passed away I felt a lot of that emptiness come back into my heart. And let me say this. Hyunsuk still had the power to make me happy. But as soon as he was gone I was left with my feelings again. And it's not like I can spend my entire day watching him or looking at his pics. I was destined to have to deal with it on my own, but those times really pushed me and I dunno. It made me extra grateful for the time I could spend with Hyunsuk. But I felt sad the world had treated Hannah so unfairly. And honestly it made me scared and feel more protective of Hyunsuk. I don't think anything like that would happen to him. But Hannah was my favorite in stardom. You can't blame me for being a little scared. I remember pretty much being upset all the time after she was gone. And the only time I felt happy was with Treasure. I really held on to all of the content we got in the weekly Treasure Map episodes. But specifically episode 25 was really healing for me. I just remember the day it came out it felt like some kind of fog got lifted. And even without him around I could stand a little stronger on my own 2 feet. And that didn't mean I got over what happened. Because if we're honest, I still spend a lot of days and nights thinking about her and what happened. But with each day Hyunsuk also gives me the strength to handle it. And just any time he helps me, it's always just by him being himself. This genuinely sweet and kind angel we're all so blessed to have in our lives. And I hope he always knows that treasure makers have his back too. Because I swear I would do literally anything in the world if it meant he could be happy. And this will have very little detail because I don't want to talk about it too much publicly. But Hannah wasn't the only one in my life who passed away. There was someone who had that was much closer, meaning a family member. And there was other things that happened. But as far as my personal life goes, Hyunsuk was the only thing I had keeping me smiling and trying to be strong. And I'll always be grateful for that. I just know that no matter what troubles might come my way, even if it seems life-shattering and like I can't get back up from it, I feel like in any and every situation you could have had, Hyunsuk helped me through a lot already, and inspires me to work hard in every sense you can think of. My life in every sense changed the second I first saw him on IG. I couldn't have made it this far without him. His overflowing charisma and charm that we've always seen. And how he's grown into such a perfect idol even though back in trainee days he was already perfect in my eyes. As well as getting more opportunities to see the warmth in his heart. I've just grown a lot closer to Hyunsuk. I know there's a lot in life that's uncertain. And as time passes things come and go. But one thing that will always be constant is the love I have for him. And as long as this heart beats, it will be backing Hyunsuk with every ounce of its love and nothing less. I owe everything to him. Choi Hyunsuk is truly my guardian angel, that I've been lucky enough to know for 2 years. I can always count on him to help me, but I hope one day I can return the favor to him. After all, I didn't deserve to be saved in the end, but he restored my heart and keep me going, so naturally he'll always be the one who I can depend on. I can promise you all that there is no one else I love more than him. Always and forever I will back him with every ounce of my soul. By distance he and I may physically be apart, but he is never far away from my heart. My heart beats for Mr. Choi only. For the past 2 years and for all of the time going forward, he will always be the one that I, wholeheartedly, love the most. And with that being said, this will conclude my video for my 2 years with Hyunsuk. Now what I have to say to you guys is first, sorry, this is probably selfish. 2. Instead of talking about me and how dumb and sappy I am, in the comments, I'm begging you, please do this. Let's spread positivity for Suk and just talk about what we love about him. Please. Anyways, thank you if you watched this far. I love you all. Bye bye.
I never felt like I never felt like